I didn't build anything. My wife said it while looking straight at the judge, as if it wasn't an accusation, but a statement of fact. I didn't even look at her. My eyes stayed fixed on the table. There was a strange silence in the courtroom. The judge leaned forward slightly. Do you realize what he has actually done? Her lawyer stayed quiet. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 44 years old. And that day, for the first time, I realized that staying silent isn't always the right thing to do. I had lived my life in a way where there was no noise, no arguments, no complaints, just work, the kind of work no one notices. Until it stops. I used to work late into the night, wake up early in the morning, and every time I thought, what I'm doing is for us, for our life. Laura, my wife, used to understand that. She would say, you're reliable. And I believed her. I never asked her what she really thought, because I felt there was no need. But things change slowly, and when they do, they don't make a sound. First, she started talking less. Then she stopped asking questions. And then she stopped noticing me. I saw everything, every small detail, but I said nothing, because I had always been that way, silent, and maybe that was my biggest mistake. In court, when she said, he didn't build anything, it wasn't just a line. It was a judgment on years of effort. I could have spoken right there. I could have stopped her, but I didn't. I just listened, because deep down, I already felt this wasn't that simple. I slowly lifted my head, and for the first time that day, I looked at her. That same confidence was on her face, the same as always, but this time, there was a slight urgency in it, as if she wanted everything to end quickly. I lowered my eyes again, because the truth was, I didn't come here to fight. At least, not yet. The sounds in the courtroom returned. Papers moved, people shifted, but inside me, everything was quiet, too quiet, because they thought I didn't know anything, that I was just silent and already defeated. But the truth was, I was silent, not unaware, and what I had started noticing over the past few weeks wasn't just suspicion. It was a complete game. At the beginning, nothing was obvious. There was no big evidence, no direct lies, just small things that had never happened before. Laura wasn't like this before. In the early years of our marriage, things were simple. I worked, she handled the home and everything else. We both played our parts. And honestly, I never kept score. Who did what? Who did how much? It never mattered to me. But maybe that's where the mistake began. The day I stopped asking questions, the first change was very small. She started taking calls, but outside the room, I noticed it, but said nothing. Then she started keeping her phone face down every time. Then the password changed, and all of this happened so gradually that if you weren't paying attention, nothing seemed wrong. I saw everything, every single detail, but I stayed quiet because I always believed if you trust someone, you don't question them. And now I was starting to understand that trust and blindness are not the same thing. Then one day, she said she wanted to organize our accounts. It'll make taxes easier, she said casually. I agreed without thinking, because it never even crossed my mind that I would need to check. A few weeks later, I noticed something small. One statement was missing, just one. I asked her about it. She replied instantly, probably a bank error. And the topic ended right there. I didn't say anything that day either. But that day, I didn't ignore it. That same night, I started checking things myself. At first, everything looked normal. Then, some things didn't match. Small transfers, strange timings, some entries missing. Nothing big enough to trigger an alarm, but enough to make it impossible to look away. And the strangest part, everything was very clean, very careful, as if someone had thought it through, so that even if someone looked, nothing would seem wrong. I didn't say anything that night. Not the next day, not after that. But after that day, I wasn't the same man. Now I wasn't just observing. I was trying to understand. And slowly, Things started becoming clear. Phone calls, documents, accounts, everything started connecting into a pattern. And in that pattern, I wasn't there. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't accidental. This was planned. And the most dangerous part, she was completely sure that I would never figure it out. I still didn't say anything, because now, this wasn't just suspicion. It was a story being written without me. And now, I was reading it. But what I saw next proved one thing. This wasn't just about money. It was an ordinary night. Laura was in the bathroom, and her phone was lying on the kitchen counter. I didn't go to pick it up. I had made a promise to myself that I wouldn't react. But the screen lit up. A notification appeared, just for a few seconds. I didn't even touch the phone. I just looked. It said, "Everything will be ready before the hearing." There was no name, just a number. And in that moment, everything changed. Because now, this wasn't just suspicion. It was a clear signal that something big was being planned. The next morning, I searched that number. It didn't take long. It was connected to a consulting firm. Legal, financial restructuring, the kind of place where things aren't cleaned. They are hidden. Now the pieces were coming together. Missing statements, strange transfers, hidden calls. Everything was pointing in one direction. I still didn't say anything, because now I understood. If I reacted too soon, I would lose. After that day, I made a decision. I wouldn't speak. I would collect. That night, for the first time, I checked every transaction, one by one, dates, amounts, timing, and slowly, a pattern began to appear. The money wasn't disappearing. It was moving, layer by layer, into places where tracing it would become difficult. But difficult, not impossible. I started taking screenshots, saved every detail. I requested archive statements from the bank, old records, the kind you don't usually access. It took time, but the answers came. And when they did, the whole story became clear. This wasn't random. This had been going on for months. Every move was planned, every step calculated, and the end point was that court hearing where I was sitting now. Her plan was simple. Shift the assets, clean the records, and then in court say, he didn't build anything. And technically, she would look right, because on paper, I would have nothing left. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes for a few seconds. There was no anger, no shock, just clarity, because now I could see the entire game. And once you see the whole game, you don't react. You position yourself. That same day, I decided I wouldn't stop her. I would let her complete it, because only then she would walk into her own trap. In the next few days, I didn't change anything. Same routine, same silence. I signed documents, approved things, as if I knew nothing. And that was my biggest move, because the day she believed I was completely out, she dropped her guard. And that's where she made a mistake, a small detail that probably meant nothing to her. But for me, it changed the entire game. It wasn't something big, no hidden account, no massive amount, just a link, an account that wasn't directly in Laura's name, and not in mine either, but it was connected through an old joint transfer. I noticed it, and then I followed it. Within minutes, a name appeared, Evan Pike. At first, it didn't seem like much, but then I remembered I had heard that name before with Laura's lawyer. He was a consultant, and now everything connected. She wasn't alone. This was a full setup. Legal, financial, strategy, everything had been planned in advance. I took a deep breath, and for the first time, I saw the complete picture. This wasn't a divorce. This was an execution, a slow removal of me from the system, and then proving in court that I was never part of it. I sat silently for a few seconds, but this time, my silence was different. It wasn't helplessness. It was control. Now I knew what I had to do. I didn't confront anyone, not Laura, not her lawyer, because if I did, they would become alert. and then everything would disappear. So I did the one thing they didn't expect. I did nothing, at least on the surface. Internally, I started tightening everything. I requested full transaction history from the bank, not just summaries, raw data, routing paths, linked accounts, every layer. It took time, but I wasn't in a hurry, because this time I wasn't chasing. I was setting a trap. I called an old contact. He wasn't a friend. He was a forensic accountant. I didn't tell him the whole story. I just showed him the structure. He looked at it for a few minutes and said only one thing. They rushed it. I understood immediately, which meant their planning wasn't perfect, and that was their weakness. I started organizing everything. Documents, screenshots, timelines. Kept it simple, kept it clear. So when the time came, there would be no confusion. And then I took one final step. I stopped touching the accounts. No logins, no changes, nothing. So if they checked, it would look like I had given up. And that's when they dropped their guard. Now only timing remained. Because the truth was, if I revealed everything now, they would escape. But if I waited, they would trap themselves. I quietly filed a request, an audit trigger, but not for now, for after the court hearing, because that's when the real game would begin. I leaned back in my chair, and for the first time, a slight smile appeared, not of anger, of clarity, because now I wasn't reacting. I was in control, and they had no idea. They thought everything was about to end, but they didn't know the real beginning was about to start. We were sitting in the same courtroom again. Everything looked exactly the same as before. The wooden table, the sound of files, the low whispers of people. But this time, something was different. Laura was calmer than before. The confidence on her face was clear, as if she was completely sure everything would go her way. Her lawyer was the same, calm, prepared, as if this was just a formality. The judge began the hearing. A few routine questions, assets, agreements. Laura answered without hesitation, as if everything had already been rehearsed. Then the same line, the one she had said before. He made no contribution to our finances. The courtroom fell silent again. The judge looked at me. Do you agree with that? I nodded without hesitation. Yes, Your Honor. Her lawyer leaned forward slightly. Maybe he thought this was over now. He pushed the file forward. Final summary. Everything was clean. Low assets. Limited records. On paper, I truly was nothing. The judge looked at it for a few seconds. Then he raised his head. Would you like to add anything? This was the moment. The one they had been waiting for. And the one I had been waiting for too. I didn't rush. No anger. No raised voice. I simply opened my file and took out one document. Just one. I placed it on the table. Just this. The courtroom fell silent again. The judge picked up the paper. He started reading slowly. A few seconds later, his expression changed. He looked up and directly at her lawyer. Were you aware of this filing? No response. He took the paper. Read it once. Then again. This time, the confidence on his face was gone. Laura leaned forward. What is that? But this time, no one answered her, because now, the paper was speaking. Transaction paths, linked accounts, names, Evan Pike. Her face changed, slowly, as if someone had suddenly turned off the light. The judge placed the paper down. This matter will not be finalized. It is being sent for a full financial review. There was no sound in the courtroom, just silence. Laura turned toward her lawyer. She said something quickly, nervously, but this time he was silent too, because now there was no way out. In the next few weeks, everything came out. Accounts were traced. Transfers were connected. Every layer was uncovered. Everything they had hidden came back together. The court reopened the case, and this time, the story was different. I didn't ask for anything extra. I didn't need to. What was mine came back to me, and what wasn't stayed where it belonged. The last time I saw her outside the court, she wasn't the same anymore. No anger, no confidence, just exhaustion. She looked at me and quietly said, "You knew?" I simply nodded, enough to understand. That was it. No feeling of victory, no revenge, because the truth was, I didn't say anything, but the truth had already spoken. If you've ever stayed silent and endured everything, tell me in the comments, did you regret it later? And if stories like this make you think, then like the video and subscribe to the channel.